And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Holy Crap, the Vlogcast. Vlogcast that comes from a skeptical point of view to answer some of the questions of why. This vlogcast started as a combination of spite and the Streisand effect because, wow, man, there's a lot of stuff that have questions going along to them. And in some cases, the answers are actually out there. Thank you, Mueller. Mueller?
Bueller.
And sometimes those are not really happy answers. And of course, part of this is to follow up with the old adage, sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. I'm your main host. I'm known as Shujin Tribble, and you can find me pretty much everywhere under that name. That's Shujin. Let me get things side quested for just a couple of seconds. For those of you that have been with us for a long time, you will recognize by looking at the episode number that, how come you didn't mark this as a not safe for work episode? Because we're not going to be doing that tonight. It's the first week that I've been back in 2 because of medical stuff. Medically, not all of us are in great shape. And truth be told, the yelly, screamy stuff just ain't going to happen. So we're going to be doing our damnedest to get through everything as always. Yeah, we'll be touching on uncomfortable topics, but we're not going to be yelly, screamy. So don't expect that. Being able to join me from the Midwest of the U.S., Brigid Fitch, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
And from the left coast, I.O. Cloud, glad you're able to make it. Good evening.
Hi.
Yeah, we were talking just a little bit before the show that, collectively, we're not all in great shape. So, if we seem a little run down, there's a good reason for it. So, like I was saying, it's a first that I'm back in a bit. I had a sciatic nerve thing again. I've had an injury once before, and it's not any kinds of fun. For anybody that is thinking, well, that's that old lady thing. It's the old Jewish lady thing. Oh, it's my sciatica is acting up. If you've never experienced it, and trust me, you would know if you did. It hurts. It is without question the most painful physical anything that I have experienced in my lifetime, and that says something. So just be mindful that we're here, we're doing our bestest, so we will see. Io's got things that might have her leaving a little bit early. We will see how that plays out. I'm not gonna hold you to it one way or the other how long you're able to hold out for. Don't be a hero.
Okay, I'll be good.
And Brigid's got a cheerleading section.
Go Brigid, go Brigid, go Brigid.
So that helps. And, Brigid's got her own stuff going on. Are we going to go ahead and tell you all of what's going on for all of us? No. No, we're not. For this very same reason that Captain America said, no, I don't think I will. And if you don't get that reference, come on, there's at least one Marvel movie you should see. But it's all good.
Well, if you want to know some of it, you can subscribe to my Substack.
See, there it is.
Shameless plug.
Hey.
And no, it's not behind a paywall.
I'm thinking about starting a Substack, but I'm not sure if anybody would want to read it.
One never knows. But we shall see. Meantime, as always, if you'd like to be joining us as we do recording the show on the weekends, which now, yes, we are now off kilter from UTC again. It is 04 UTC now because daylight savings time. Thanks. It's real simple, guys. 15 degrees of longitude is another hour. We're supposed to be 5 behind.
8.
Whatever. Well, I'm supposed to be 5 behind. And I'm the one that sets up the show, so it's 5. In any
But how
case,
long are we at for? Is this like for several months now, or
yeah, and until
we should-
fall, whenever the
okay,
date is for, spring ahead, fall back. Yeah, and falling back is just going back to what it's supposed to be.
which is standard? Yeah, standard time.
Yeah, love
It
that.
should be standard time all the time.
It should be.
They keep on
Yeah.
voting to get rid of it, but they never bother.
And the funny part of it is there's areas in the United States where there are counties that do or do not observe. There are towns that do or do not, and then there are Native American reservation area that do or do not.
In places like my state, where certain counties got to vote on whether they were going to be on Central or Eastern, so it depends on what part of which county you live in. So yeah.
Yeah, and
And
we're
then
not,
there's Canada and the Maritime provinces, specifically Newfoundland and Labrador. They're half an hour ahead of the rest of the Maritimes.
mm-hmm.
An hour.
Yeah, because that's a thing.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, like if I drive straight north from my house and keep going north from one end of the state to the other, I change time zones 3 times. It's just stupid.
And for me, I could change time zones for me going to Canada, I have to remind everybody, from where I live to get to Canada, it's not north, it's northeast.
Well,
in
yeah.
in
So
order
of
to get
course
to.
we're gonna change
So I
time
can
zone.
I can actually go from here in the United States where it's 1933 and move up to 2024 if I cross over the border. Sorry,
Travel.
was that a dig? Was that a dig? I'm sorry.
Travel.
I like
Yay.
it. That was a good dig. That was a good dig.
Somebody had to do it, and Lord knows I'm just the dick to do it. That's about as far as I'm gonna get for the not safe for work thing. So how about I get everything rolling? Because I actually did get the Horrible Scopes rewritten. Last week I didn't because I was just that bad off. So, yeah. Considering that I could have done it on my phone with my thumbs. No. And I could have done it laying down with my laptop. No, that doesn't work out well. Didn't work out well for anybody.
Horseshoe.
It sucked. But we'll go from there. So let me go ahead and get it rolling over here. So with 5 minutes on the clock, your 5-minute freestyle is going to start now. Now, I did change the title before this all went to press. This week it's titled Spider-Man. And for those of you that don't remember, yes, there is supposed to be a hyphen in there, believe it or not. I don't remember the exact why, but is what it is. Originally, I was going to title it Superman, because I have stated on too damn many occasions that I've got a Superman complex. I believe that I am invulnerable, that I can do it all, that I don't need to rely on anybody, and it's just kind of the way that it's been. And to a certain degree, it's more Spider-Man for me. Spider-Man was always the guy that I loved growing up. I've said it before, for Halloween for many years. That's what I wanted to be for Halloween, and I was, until my mom decided, let's change that out this year. Just pick something other than. Don't know why. So my problem has been over the last basically 2 weeks. I need to stop being Spider-Man. I can't do it all. Even at my healthy. I can't. And I need to recognize that. And the funny part of it is that it's not even that it's an age thing. And admittedly, I am now I don't want to admit it, I am 56. Now, I'm not saying I don't want to admit it because I feel uncomfortable saying that I'm 56. To borrow from a very famous doctor, what's so damn troublesome with not having died? Because for me, I'm still 35 years old in my head. It's when my wife passed. It's 35. It's hard to get around that. You know, I still haven't. I know full well that I likely won't. I try. There's certain things I can get past. There's certain things that I can't. But my self-image, my internal view of who I am, is still stuck there. 35 was a pretty good age, physically speaking. It wasn't so bad. I obviously can't do the same things that I used to do. For one thing, I'm unfortunately not exactly out of practice of stuff, but I am. There's a lot of muscle memory that's just not there anymore. And I have to recognize that. I have to understand that. I have to accept that there are certain limitations for what I do. And that doesn't come out any more apparently than doing the job that I do. It's pretty physical. You can get hurt if you're not careful. You can get hurt just by not being attentive. You have to be aware situationally what's around you, who's around you, and what's in motion. And not always just the physical stuff. It kind of helps to keep track of mentally what's going on around. And I try to do that. Because believe it or not, when I'm on lunch, I've got my laptop, and if I can't write because I just don't have it in me to write, I'm playing a game. I'm playing Minesweeper. Yeah, get that. The old man's playing Minesweeper. Just constantly over and over and over again. And I'll tell you why. Because physically, the physicality of the job helps me to lose weight, to get, my strength back again. But Minesweeper is what's trying to help me with my head. The same way that DJing did. I'm trying very desperately to kind of improve knowing what's going around me and be a little bit more analytical. So if you're frustrated with how things are going for you, I get that. But maybe, just for a day, don't take everything on your own shoulders. Maybe, just maybe. Just this once. So like I said, I did get a new horrible scope written, and it's a good thing because Lord knows it needed to be done. So let's do that. For the horrible scopes, of course, if you know what your astrological sign is, cool. And if you don't, you can make it up as you go along because it's really not going to make too much of a difference. And if you want a D12 to try and randomize it for yourself, get in touch with the nice folks over there at Heart of the Game Fredonia. They'll be happy to set you up and ship you a D12 after you pay for it. Because, that's how things are done here in capitalist hellhole that we're in. As Heart of the Game Fredonia, find them over on Facebook. Hail, hail, Fredonia, home of the Blue Devil. I don't know where the Mimic is currently. I haven't visited recently. I haven't been in touch with him. But there's supposed to be a Mimic around. It hasn't come knocking on my door, so I think I'm in okay shape. So, like I said, sorry there wasn't a horrible scope last week. I can usually get them done, sometimes a little bit overdue from when they're supposed to be ready, but yeah, like I said, sciatic nerve, I had nothing that I could do. I couldn't exactly sit for long periods of time, and even tonight it's going to be a little bit tough. So now that I'm back, if you'll pardon the pun, I'm going to get you all ready for spring, because the calendar says it's spring. no matter what Mother Nature is trying to prove. Aries, if there's one thing we do know about you, it's that you have a love for the outdoors. Partly cloudy days sitting on a park bench watching the wildlife go about its business is mentally calming for you. And it's easy to see why. It's all those years of playing Duck Hunt that made your skills with a Nintendo Zapper unparalleled. So this week, start making a list of the pharmacies in your area. If you're going to be outside that much, you're going to want some antihistamines. And you better start splitting up where you buy them from so nobody asks uncomfortable questions. Sure, I have no idea what that meant.
I think you meant decongestants. They're
No.
antihistamines are not that big of a deal to get over the counter. But decongestants, yeah, you have to show your ID.
No, antihistamine intentionally, because that's the good stuff.
Well, it's good for pollen, which, yeah, we've got a pollen alert. So
Yeah.
I'm like, yay.
Ah,
Yeah,
good.
let's just plant all of the male plants and trees, not the female ones, because female ones produce fruit. Yeah.
I'm just going to paint my car yellow and just not deal with it anymore. Doris, not many of you in this collection will be connecting with this scope, but for those of you that do, just know that you're appreciated. Those of you in the agro sector, listen up. You took more than your fair share of time off from the planning part of the job. It's time to get back to it. Fields 3 and 4 need some fertilizer plowed in at the first opportunity. Marshmallow wrapped bales need to be checked for mice and mold. The horses you all need to get reshoed by the farrier. And for crying out loud, will you please get that one sheep sheared? So this week, what do you mean that's an alpaca, not a sheep? Don't care, get to trimming.
Alpacas are murder machines with spit takes. Those beasts.
But they're
But
loyal.
I want one.
But they're
I want
loyal.
one.
They're loyal. Their fleece is oh so soft. I used to work occasionally on an alpaca farm.
I want some.
Oh, Gemini. We're proud of you. Keeping your heating bills down by actually using your fireplace was a stroke of good thinking. Yay, you! But now comes the hard part, getting it cleaned out. Sure, you could come have a pro in and do it, but we know you love to DIY your own solutions. So here's our suggestion. So this week, all you need is a drone with a video feed and a wire brush and a hand mixer and a fireplace vacuum cleaner. We're pretty sure you're going to figure it all out after that. And just be careful not to break the ceramic lining of the flue. That's expensive to replace. Chim chimney, chim chimney, chim chim chiree.
Exactly right. Cancer Moonchild. Your plans on becoming a game streamer are ready to take hold, but we're not sure you found a niche that suits you. How about, instead of playing modern game demos until they run out, you tap a market that'll bring in lots of interest, especially from older folks. Ask your older watchers to have you play games from the genre known as abandonware. So this week, good luck finding Alien Breed 2: The Horror Continues, because not only is it virtually impossible to acquire, you'll need to find a working Amiga computer to play it on.
Yeah, I read an article a couple of days ago about abandonware, and it was so sad. Because some of the stuff is just lost forever and nobody has the code to it anymore and it's still copyrighted, so nobody can have it.
Yeah, there's so many good titles that were played in the dark ages of the internet and the BBSs.
Well, Kingdom Hearts is a dead end. It's gone.
I know.
Nobody has it.
And if memory serves, I do believe that the original Lemmings is considered abandonware at this point.
Yep. And I love Lemmings. It was fun.
Leo, now that your internet problems have been fixed, what better time to binge watch all the TV shows you missed out on? Sure, you could delve into multi-season shows like Doctor Who or The Expanse, but what about The Evil Dead or The Last of Us? You want comedy or horror or drama? How about we steer you towards a really good one? So this week, watch Firefly. Go, Romit.
I should have done that one. Goram it.
It's all good.
Goram. Goram. Virgo. It's been a while since you last picked up a new hobby, so how about something different? Slack wire walking. Nope, 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 nope. Tried it. Sure, everyone's heard of high wire or tight wire, but we're talking about only being about a foot or so off the ground. Nope, nope, nope. It'll take some time to get used to this weird side to side sway of the rope, but it'll be fun. I'm saying this from experience. So this week, invest in some foam rubber mats to fall on, because you're going to fall a lot. Yes, I can confirm.
Libra, speaking of hobbies, how about picking up one that you used to enjoy? Reading. We're not expecting you to pick up a copy of War and Peace and delve in, but how about something you used to read in your youth? Re-explore Clifford the Big Red Dog or Curious George, maybe even some Viewmasters with audio recordings to them. Your childhood is just waiting for you to rediscover. So this week, yes, there were versions of the Viewmasters with little plastic records on the discs that played sounds. You didn't hallucinate that toy. Good luck finding one, though.
Scorpio, with the beginning of spring and the end of winter, it's time to get clothes shopping. Not suits, but boots. And not winter boots, obviously, but wet weather, watertight boots. If you wanted to keep all the water out, you could just buy wellies, but then you've got the small problem of filling the inside with footwear. And nobody wants to do that. So this week, maybe wellies aren't all that bad. Check in with Taurus and see if they could make some alpaca wool socks for you to wear. They're pretty comfortable and dry out nicely.
I'm keeping my mouth shut. I ruined it yesterday. I'm keeping my mouth shut. Sagittarius, you have a schedule to keep, so it's time to get to it. Half your cousin's birthday's coming up in the next 3 months, so you better get birthday cards now. It's usually not a big deal, but maybe you try buying something more personalized instead of a 25 pack and sending them all the same card this year. So this week, did you know that you can get on-demand postage paid by your local postal service? Just drop into the local office and use the self-service kiosk to get all of your postage needs met. Why do I feel like I just did an advertisement for the local postal office?
Because you can literally go in there and feed it money, and it will spit out a sheet of stickers that it prints on demand. I think that's actually kind of cool. Capricorn.
We've got forever stamps here. We've got like 2 or 3 rolls of them.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Good investment. Capricorn. Out of all of us, you are going to be the troublemaker for some reason. Yes, you are allowed to walk around inside your own house naked, and yes, you're under no obligation to put up window blinds or curtains, but come on, Capricorn. Sunning your butthole is not a New Age body cleansing system that has any redeeming qualities. So this week, we are making a big assumption as to why you have all that sunscreen on your legs. Please do not make us think too hard on this.
Aquarius, before you know it, you'll be able to go out for dinner and be seated al fresco again. Sure, there are places that'll do it in the winter with those overhead heater umbrellas, but there's something more romantic doing it in the early evening. So this week, you do realize that dining al fresco could be as simple as getting takeaway, driving to a remote section of the parking lot, and eating on the hood of your car, right? If you decide to do this, just be mindful of the local fauna trying to abscond with your french fries. Seagulls are silent thieves.
Especially the seagulls at Stanley Park. Except they're not silent. They will actually take the entire container of fries. Pisces. You need to finalize your plans to make your own batch of maple syrup. Did you set up a multi-tree piping system or just buckets to collect the drippings? Ugh. Remember, the ratio is 40-1 to make any worth a damn. Meaning, if you want a liter of maple syrup, you're going to need about 40 liters of tree sap to start off with, at minimum. Now you can get upwards of 9 liters per day per tree. So you only need to tap a few trees to make this work. So this week, if you're going to tap a tree, it'll need to be at least 40 years old already, meaning 23 inches around. Do you have any that meet that criteria? Oh, yeah, and watch out for any drunk squirrels. The best maple syrup I ever had was at the University of Guelph's demo. You know, some universities have a day or a week of demos showing what the students have learned. They actually had maple syrup making factory there, and they would make it, and you watch them pour the buckets in, and you watched it go across the table to boil it off, and at the end there was buckets where they put that into to boil it down more, and you could actually, it was still warm. It was still warm. I went there every single year as a kid until we moved from Ontario. It was so... We even had a school trip there once. And what's really fun is when you take the hot maple syrup and you pour it on ice and you put a stick down and you wrap the stick with the maple syrup. Oh. I'm going to go have a maple syrup gasm, excuse me.
You do that. And as an aside, yes, that is something that is done, especially up Montreal way. You know, when they actually do have something that resembles, you know, winter, when it's minus 40.
In February at Millardville in Coquitlam, they have the Frog Festival, the French language festival. And went there a couple years, and they had the maple syrup with the sticks, but I wasn't able to get in line in order to get some. I got all my kids frog hats. And about a year ago, one of them said, "Can you replace mine?" I can't find the pattern anywhere.
Those are your horoscopes for this week. Remember, if you like what you got, don't care. Because I had to work hard on these, and I actually got them done, which was a lot of fun for a change, believe it or not. However, if you'd like something nicer or naughtier for yourself or someone else's sign, you can bribe me by asking, because I operate primarily on vanity. Or if you would like to actually bribe me with funds, you can do that over at the coffee page, coffee.com/Icarus the Lunar Guard. I'll have these posted at the end of the week, Tumblr, Facebook, Coffee, Discord, BlueSky, because that's the way that everything works around here, and that's the way it is. I'm going to get away with saying that one, because I can get away with saying that one. It is episode 530 on the docket, Your Honor. Welcome back. Now go away. Now, like I said, it is not specifically a not safe for work episode. Not really in the mood to be doing that. It's not necessarily a matter of that I want to be self-regulating at this point. It's just more a matter of that I just don't have it in me to extend very hard. So it will be what it will be, which means, you know, we're going to do the best that we can. Now, yes, unfortunately, this kind of comes twice over. Welcome back, of course, to us, because, well, you know, it's been a little bit. And again, my apologies for that. It is what it is. But now go away. Well, I'll give you guys a little peek inside my head on this one. Every once in a while, I really, really do kind of think, is it worth going on with the show? And I say that because there are so many times where I see there are events going on and there are people out there that are getting notice, and I feel very downtrodden because here we are, however many years later, with very little notoriety. And a good portion of that I know is because I don't have it in me to do any kind of promotion, because I'm horrid at that. But I also have to remind myself, we do serve a niche. It may be a very niche, but we have a niche. So I'm not giving up on that anytime soon. Now, part of this, unfortunately, is, like I said, a doubled. Because welcome back, now go away. Because unfortunately, there are a number of diseases that have come back that shouldn't have, that we would very much like for them to just go away. So we're gonna talk on a couple of topics that I specifically told the guys I want to intentionally hit. What we've done collectively as a species for the betterment of humanity in the world, in the line of the medical, I will call it industry, because it's hard to call it otherwise. What we've seen, both good and bad, in the very near recent history, and what we can kind of make suggestions for helping ourselves, because the medical stuff is going to be very difficult to find assistance from on high for a little while. So we'll kind of see where that takes us. I would be remiss if I did not specifically mention over there on the chat, Stephanie, you're back, and good morning. Yeah, Stephanie got in touch with me a couple of times during my convalescence, sending good tidings. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And yeah, knew you were going to be a little bit behind. That's okay. You're here, and we appreciate it. So, good to have you. So, starting off everything with the whole, what have we done collectively that has been an absolute objective good in the medical research area, medical industry? I'm going to tell you the one that comes to mind whenever anybody says, well, what the hell is the medical industry good for? What is Big Pharma good for? Smallpox. I'm going to mention very specifically smallpox. There was a concerted effort worldwide to eradicate it. The last in the wild smallpox thing was in the early 1970s. It has been eradicated from the face of the earth outside of research. There is some stuff out there for research purposes, hidden away, and that's fine by me. But people do not understand how long smallpox had been crawling and infesting the earth before that. Easily 5,000 years. That is not an exaggeration. Evidence for pictures, drawn images of the human body with what very easily appears to be smallpox on it, on the skin, is credited back through ancient Egypt. Ancient as in, wow, when we think of ancient Egypt, there were archaeologists studying ancienter Egypt at this time. So, yeah, before anybody goes ahead and says that, the medical industry is just for the money, I'm sorry. Curing a 5,000 plus year old plague qualifies in my book as an absolute objective good. In a situation where saying something is an objective good is a really difficult thing to find these days. You two have at it. What's been a collective and objective good as far as you guys have been concerned medically?
Well, NIH.
Go on.
The NIH was full of scientists who did research and brought drugs to market and provided health services to all of us. Um, there's also a lot of research institutes in this country who, collaborate on bringing things to market to help us and make us healthier. And I hate to put that in the past tense, but that's kind of where we are. Um, and they've been around for, I don't know, 50 something years, or I don't even know how long. I mean, a long time. Um, but, they've, discovered not cures, but that fluoride, prevents cavities. They've discovered using lithium for bipolar disorder management and developed vaccines against hepatitis and HPV, things like that. And it's thought that about 20% of cancers now are caused by viruses. And that was something that we didn't know 20 years ago, 25 years ago. But they've even found out that, a virus has been implicated in, lung cancer for non-smokers. Who knew? NIH found out and, did a lot to bring, vaccines around to, prevent certain cancers. But there's too many people out there that think the NIH is a waste of money and have done nothing for us.
And making sure that we've got it put out there, just to be on the safe side. NIH stands for
National Institutes of Health. And I guess they're about as useless as NASA, huh?
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Sarcasm intended.
Exactly. How about for you, Io?
Polio vaccine.
Wow.
Not my aunt by marriage, but her sister was a polio victim. And I remember being in the 80s because we lived at the hospital she was forced to be at. We went and visited her, and I spent some time with her in an iron lung. Like, she was in the iron lung. And they've almost got it eradicated. It's only in like a couple of countries in the Middle East. Almost. But if they're not careful, it's going to come back, just like measles.
Pertussis.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh, I was vaccinated against pertussis, and I still ended up with it multiple times as a kid.
Well, I had my last booster about 6 months ago.
There you go.
So, yeah. One thing that concerns me, and it should concern other people, maybe it will, maybe it won't, but, to me it's concerning. The CDC was supposed to put out a forecast of the continued measles outbreak and their, projections for where it was going to go. And they were told a few days ago that they cannot update that forecast.
Cannot or will not?
Cannot.
Cannot. They're not allowed to.
So will not, effectively, what it comes down to.
They've been ordered not to, so therefore they will not.
Now, before anybody gets on my case about it, there is a very, very, very real and rational reason why I wanted to be very pedantic about the choice of terminology in this case. Because it's one thing to say they cannot, meaning they just don't have the information coming into them. Because there's a whole other meta behind that. We saw that with the COVID outbreaks, where individual states were finally like, well, we're not going to share our information on statistics anymore because we don't want to scare people away from traveling and vacationing here, because if they don't know, they can't be scared of it, right?
Well,
Versus,
I don't know if it would be a cannot or will not because they've been ordered not to.
so
So they
because,
have the information, but they have been ordered not to release it or to make it public.
right. So in my view, that would
Mm-hmm.
be a will not, because they have been directed to. They have the information, but they have been directed not
Not
to
to.
use it,
Mm-hmm.
not to share it, which, as far as I'm concerned, is a crime against science itself.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
Crime against humanity.
yeah,
It is.
yeah. Because if you knew that there was something dangerous that was about to have happen, and you decided, I'm just not going to tell somebody that there is I'm not gonna tell somebody to stop their car, even though there is a 12-foot deep sinkhole, 50 feet beyond this point where they can't see around a blind turn. How could you, in any conscience, do something like that? How could you not assist? And really, that's what it's come down to. Now,
Yeah.
and
But
and
then,
and there's another piece about this, by the way, before we go past that one. We've been told, and I forget what the technical term for it is, but the rate at which someone can infect someone else if they have a disease, I forget what that's called. Is that the N factor, R
it's
factor,
R not.
the R naught factor? Okay,
R factor. Yeah.
R factor. For COVID, it was very specifically, if memory serves, 2.1. I think is what it was.
It was between 1 and 2.5, depending on country, region, population density, etc. So
Okay.
basically 1.5 to 2.
Okay. So let's call it 2.
And measles?
18.
18. Yep.
And it's not just 18 people. That's 18 people that could be infected after someone has walked through a collection of air and left stuff just floating in the air an hour later.
A few hours later.
Sorry, few hours later. Somebody could be in an elevator, and then by the mid-afternoon, they've infected, upwards of 20 people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, for anybody that says, it's not a problem because it's over there geographically speaking, might we remind you of one of the things that really pissed us off in the middle of the COVID stuff? I'm gonna kick this one over to you, Brigid, because you were one of the angriest of us all. The motorcycle rally.
Oh, the one at Sturgis. Yeah. There were a bunch of cases that came out of that and, went all over the U.S. because of this one motorcycle, I don't know what you want to call it,
Event.
Okay. That takes place, yearly in Sturgis. So yeah, they were able to trace like cell phones and all that to see where people went back home, and then they took COVID with them.
And went about their business. And it wasn't just that they infected people when they got back home because they had to stop for gas or stop for the night,
Mm-hmm.
stop for, coffee.
I got yelled at on one of the boards I was on because I was describing my trip from Canada to the United States, one of the last planes that was still flying in December. I was masked up the entire time. They took our temperature at every single stop, every single waypoint, and anybody that was coughing got kicked off the plane. And I was told that what I did was causing COVID to expand. But I did it all the way that we were supposed to do, which was go through the testing, make sure I had a negative test before I even got on the plane. Da 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 da. And I got just basically vilified. But I was going to be homeless in Canada in a Canadian winter. I was not going to survive. And the irony is, the reason why I have a home now is because my husband lost his previous wife to COVID. She was one of the first 150,000 people.
Stephanie's also pointed out, I always wear a mask when I leave this complex. I have found that effective. Good. I've already started ending my my DJ shows with the, I will admit it, soapbox.
Wear a mask.
Yeah, if you're going to an area where it's a, God, what the hell was the terminology that I used for it? A shared space. Mask. Get a mask. Use a mask. It's if nothing else, like I said, the measles thing. No, man. All you need is for a spark to take. And if there's one thing that we've learned, and again, that Stephanie has pointed out, and backing up just a little bit, too many U.S. citizens do not get their children vaccinated on time or at all.
Yep.
And they are the most susceptible of all of us because kids are reliant on us larger humans. I was about to say we, and I'm just suddenly realizing, oh yeah, you don't want to say we humans because it's the little folk. Sorry.
Yeah, this current measles outbreak that we have is now in 21 states.
It's unconscionable.
Well, I mean, according to the people, that I was listening to that are virologists, the measles was considered eradicated in the U.S. in 2000.
Yep.
And there's no reason why it couldn't be eradicated like smallpox was. There's no reason. It would be easy to eradicate.
It's because there are parts of the world that are so impoverished and have such a lack of medical attention and medical technology that they can't vaccinate everyone that's there. And those pockets, diseases like polio, measles, and others, they're still running around. And
well, some
measles,
of them don't because they're afraid.
Measles also does evolve. I had actual measles when I was in elementary school, even though I was completely vaccinated against it. So I had a measles variant that the vaccine did not cover. And
sadly, that happens.
Well, there's 5% of the population where it just doesn't produce antibodies.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately the statistic that you have to deal with. Human biology is squishy biology. It does not follow a yes or no. It follows a maybe. That is a meandering course around the question of, does this work all the time? Well, sort of. So we have to kind of put up with that squishy part.
Well,
yeah,
to quote Dr. Rosenfeld, there is no such thing as a sterilizing immunity. It just doesn't exist.
And COVID has been mutating like crazy.
Oh yeah.
I think we're on the 50th variant or something.
Oh God, I don't even know. I haven't looked at it so long. But yeah.
It'll be more than that because last time I looked, it was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of variants.
Jeebus.
That was like 2 years ago.
And if it is COVID, is it testable? Is that specific strain testable?
Might not be.
Might not.
Yeah. I'm suffering from some sort of pneumonia. Got no clue what it's from. It could be bacterial. It could be one of the COVID variants. It could be a flu variant that doesn't get tested for. It could be anything. Bacterial. I was tested up the wazoo. Some of the tests that were given to me, I didn't know that they could test for that.
And it's also entirely possible that it is the same flu, the same virus, but has just mutated, not in a way of how it impacts human lives, but that it has evolved in such a way that it no longer trips whatever the detection systems are, because it's using a slightly different chemical makeup, which then effectively renders it invisible because we're not looking for the right thing. It's like shining a light. Okay, cool, but how do you spot something with a light in the dark if it's effectively transparent?
I've had 7 X-rays and a CAT scan in the last month. I spent Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, and most of Friday, not this past week, but the week before, in the hospital on IV antibiotics, getting multiple different IV antibiotics to try and eradicate whatever the hell is in my system. And my mental health has taken a real hard hit. I went to urgent care today, and whatever I've got has not gone away. My lungs are in the same situation they were back on March 5th, March 17th, March 15th, March 25th, March 20th.
Which, on the bright side, too, also means that there's nothing detectably worse, which doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good thing, but it not being worse, at least detectably so, is something to fall back on just a hair, if nothing else.
And the one thing the hospital didn't do was any mental health help. They didn't check on my mental health. And I had a PTSD flash because my IV blew. I got tortured by a nurse when I had one of my kids, and I had to have antibiotics after that birth, and the IV blew, and in order to get the IV to restart, the nurse milked it and milked my arm, and pain like that. I had that flashback because the nurse was doing similar. I only let her do it once because I felt that burn. Like, no, we're going to get a new IV. No, you're going to get me a new IV. I'd rather have the new poke. You're not going to do that to me.
Yeah, I think it's sorry.
And my mental health went for a couple of hours. Didn't help that I was in the septic ward and I could hear other patients just that wail of despair, alarms, the running feet, the code blues. You know, I did my best to keep my spirits up, and today I've gotten another hit. I'm not getting better. I've been on antibiotics pretty much for over a month now.
Yeah, all the more reason why I'm saying I'm hoping that being with us helps you at least some.
Let's be rant.
Now, what I was saying earlier about human biology being squishy science, man, you want to talk about getting into squishy science, you start getting into mental health because, oh my God, it's scads worse because we, to borrow from another doctor, we know frighteningly little about what goes into mental processes and what qualifies as healthy brain, because operating on a working computer, I know it's not exactly a computer, but give me a break. That's difficult in the best of circumstances.
My grandmother was a psychiatric nurse from World War II.
A lot harder to troubleshoot.
No shit.
Back then, they did not have lithium, diazepam, lorazepam, whatever. They did not have all those wonder drugs that basically shuts a person down. All they could do literally was just hold the patient's hand, and that's what my grandmother told me. That's how she had to deal with these poor men that came back from the war that were having PTSD flashes. Like, what I had was minor compared to what those men had. I also had a blanket that I had hand crocheted, and because of where they put the IV line, I was able to keep my hands busy, which allowed me to focus on anything else but what was going on around me. And so when I had that flash, I wrapped myself up in the blanket and I just cried. And, you know, the nurses gave me my space. They let me have my emotional support stuffed animals.
Good.
But I needed more than that because trying to breathe and feeling like I'm drowning all the time is not a fun feeling.
Going sideways from
Yeah.
that, anyone who is in the medical field who has to deal with sticking someone, train with the best phlebotomist on your staff. Please.
Mm-hmm.
You do. Those of us who have never had to go to, who have never had to have gone through a consistent get a blood draw or get an IV put in on a regular basis, like my wife had to. She was the one that told me there was one phlebotomist who was absolutely the picture perfect personality every goddamn time. And she could tell the difference between who was good and who was not. And she always wanted that one person. Folks, if you are in a medical group, if you know of a medical group that you deal with on a consistent basis that does have to use those little things into people, please suggest that they do that every once in a while. I mean, shit, forklift operators need to be certified every once in a while just to make sure that they're up to it. There's nothing wrong with the smallest of pieces.
There's nothing wrong with asking for the vein whisperer and the ultrasound and the light tech. There's this light that they can shine on your skin that makes all the veins pop up like Christmas trees.
Oh, yeah, shit, yeah. Brigid, do you remember seeing about that a couple years ago where they started to show how they had the light imaging thing on somebody's forearm and all the veins would light up right on their skin and everything?
That's what they did on my left hand back in
And I think that
October.
would be very useful.
Oh, God,
They
yeah.
used the ultrasound on my right
And,
arm.
you know, especially there are some people that seem to have an issue with their veins. I don't know what to call it, but in slang, rolling, to where you have a hard time sticking them. And
Rolling.
you know, it's
There's veins that roll. There's veins
an
that
issue
have.
in some patients, and I don't know what you would technically call that, but
Annoying.
Mhm.
well, it is annoying, but like if you try to do a blood draw, then there's something about their veins that'll just literally move out of the way, and you can't stick them.
There's veins
And I
that
have
roll.
no idea how you would go about
There's veins that
fixing that
roll.
on a person to where that wouldn't happen.
There's veins that
But
roll. There's
it's
veins
gotta
that
be held
have
for the
valves.
patients.
Bridge, hold on.
Okay. There's veins that roll. There's veins that have valves that blow. There's veins that the stick was okay, but it actually went through the other side of the vein. But the needle is in the tubing is in the right spot for the liquid to go into the vein, but some of it's leaking out just a little bit. That happened to me. And I was actually complaining, like, look, my hand's swelling up. That is not a good stick. And I hate needles. I've had punctures where my hands, fingers, whatever, could not move from the puncture, from the IV, because of where it was placed, how it was placed, and how it was taped down. The one I had Thursday, it went into my forearm, slightly on the side, and it was used. There was an ultrasound that was used in order to put it in, and it went deep. It hurt like an SOB, but it was stable, and I could still use my arm. I could still crochet. I could still be elsewhere. You know, I'm still in the hospital, but my mind is elsewhere. My mind is, yeah, stitch by stitch, row by row, gonna make my project go. And But the one that was in my elbow, same arm, it blew. And I knew it was blowing within about 3 hours of it being there. And I complained, oh, no, 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 it's fine. No, it's going to blow. No, 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 it's fine. Because it was in the elbow right before the bend of the elbow instead of above the bend. So every time I bent my elbow, it got kinked. The one that I had in October, that was the one that was in my hand, and my hand started to blow up. So that finally got pulled, and that's when they did the light thing on me, and they found a vein, and it was actually kind of cool watching them do that. It was cool. I liked that.
I will find the video from YouTube and drop that into. Oh no, I did that wrong. I need to put that into the show notes. There we go. Vein light, and I will make sure that I add that for folks to take a look at that, because that was, I remember the tech news when that came up, and that was absolutely amazing. Sideways.
My poor husband, back when he had his heart attack and his quadruple bypass, one of the times he had to have a blood draw, this guy came in and started poking around, and he was literally digging for the vein. And my poor husband ended up with this giant bruise. And I was not quite coherent enough because he came in the middle of the night when I was out cold, and I could hear my husband crying. I finally told the guy to get out of there. And I did a huge complaint. I got out the erasable marker and wrote it on the board that this guy is not allowed anywhere near my husband. And then when we moved to the less intense care unit, I did the same thing. Like,
so, yeah, good to be able to do that. Now,
if the puncture that you're being given does not feel right, ask for somebody else. Because you could have a reason why that puncture is not working right. It doesn't matter if it's a draw or an IV. If you're able to say somebody else, you have all that right.
Now, funny to put it that way, because now we get to pull into something that I don't want to make mention to, but we kind of have to.
Uh-oh.
Because of the moronity that is currently going on in administration here in my country, there are children who are not being regarded specifically for things like measles, but are instead being treated for an overdose, for lack of a better way of putting it, of vitamin A.
It is an overdose of vitamin A. It's fat soluble, and
I haven't heard about this.
And it's causing hospitalizations of children because they've taken toxic amounts of vitamin A. And the reason why they've taken this is because a certain person that's in charge of our health now has recommended it as a treatment. And so people in Texas have been going out and buying lots of vitamin A supplementation for their kids.
I have not heard of this. I've heard of the executive order or the bill or whatever where children are now being inspected for their genitals to make sure they pass for their assigned at birth gender. Excuse me while I scream blood blue murder.
Know, but we're talking about the vitamin A issue now.
I didn't hear about the vitamin A issue.
Well, we're telling you about the vitamin A issue.
Yeah. What happened is the person currently in charge of the highest health services of the federal government in my country. Can you tell that I'm studiously avoiding the automated caption system from picking up? Has gone ahead and put out there a thing reminding everybody that he is one of the top 12 disinformation peddlers for medical misinformation.
Hmm.
went ahead and put it out there that vitamin A was a viable treatment for, I forget, was it specifically for measles that he was
Yes,
saying it?
for measles.
For measles. For
Hmm.
children.
Hmm.
Well,
No.
And
considering that
according to the World Health Organization and some other agencies like this, from research papers that they've done, in wealthy developed countries, vitamin A has no effect whatsoever on measles. There is some research where in poorer, economically depressed places, it might help some during the treatment, but studies are not bearing this out.
And
ay, ay, ay.
and it's easy enough to say, well, if you're getting some additional vitamins and you happen to be in a otherwise destitute area, for lack of a nicer way of putting it, yeah, additional stuff will help to a certain degree and probably within the margin of error, but probably at the higher end of the margin of error because you're getting a little bit more than what you had before. But unfortunately, these are kids that are.
In the
I
US, we do not have a problem with vitamin A deficiency.
No, we do not,
I'm
and
just going to put that out there.
and
And then there's the parents that flip out because there's iron in children's cereal. Well, of course there's iron in children's cereal. That's to supplement the iron deficiency.
Stephanie's got a thing over here that I wish was a possibility, saying he needs a class action against him personally. The problem is acting in the official capacity.
He's immune.
There are certain immunities that go with the office. Yes. How much so, I am unfamiliar with. However, there is unfortunately an uncomfortable number of check and balance groups that would otherwise say, well, official capacity, it works in one part of the executive branch, so why shouldn't it extend to other parts of the executive branch?
Eh.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to sue and win. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. The problem also is I don't have all of the information currently available as far as the vitamin A thing is concerned. I am at this time unaware of any child fatalities because of it. That having been said, as a parent, I have to grudgingly admit, as much as it pains me, that the answer to have there been any vitamin A overdose fatalities at this point, I can only say by next week I expect that the number will be non-zero.
Yeah, it does cause organ damage and damages your liver and bones and nervous system and all kinds of stuff.
It will be a non-zero number.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to
I'm
be.
just shaking my head because this is probably the same group of people that believed that ivermectin was a good cure for COVID.
They are. They absolutely are.
One
Amish,
of
sorry, but Amish
Go for it.
communities have had children dying of these now mostly preventable diseases. I forget if it was, I'm pretty sure it was from measles. A 6-year-old, if memory serves, from what I remember. And remember, the last 2 weeks has been really tough on me. And they, as a community, said it was better for the child to die from this disease than to be pumped full of these devil juices. I am not using the terminology that they used, but it is effectively that because of the disinformation campaigns. And I cannot say how much I absolutely detest that enough. We thought it was bad when we were dealing with what's his butt before. And no, don't name him. We will not name that son of a bitch ever again. Unless we absolutely have to. But this whole anti-vaccination campaign that's been going on over the last 30 years. I hate to say it, but societally, we're getting what we paid for. And the ones who are paying for it are the kids. And I cannot tell you how wrong that is, because if you cannot understand that, we just don't have common ground, period.
Well, it's not common ground, it's a difference of morals.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. If people cannot recognize that children need to be protected, I mean,
Yeah.
to the standpoint of, I can't believe I'm gonna reference from a Star Trek episode where Picard has got to make the decision to basically grovel at Q's feet because the Borg are carving up the Enterprise. And he says, "You want me to say that I need you? I need you." And I'm saying that because the same vehemence right now in my voice. These children need us. We are the ones who know better. We have the lifetimes of experience to know what happens. They don't. They need us. And we are failing them.
In the host chat, I just dropped a link for IO to Deutsche Welle's article that the measles cure sickens Texas kids.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what stuff is going to make it into the show notes also, so folks don't think that we left them out.
I mean, other U.S. outlets have it as well, but I just choose to use Deutsche Welle
That's fine.
for the clicks.
That's fine. You know, before we move too far along, because I'm doing okay at the moment, but I'm trying to be very mindful of my leg, like I mentioned before. I think it's worth kind of briefly mentioning the World Health Organization, WHO. They were the ones that were in charge of the smallpox vaccination, the worldwide effort, as memory serves, and they had the funding, they had the infrastructure, they got out there and they made worldwide and human lifetime and human history by going out there and doing the job and making smallpox just go away. The idea that we could, as a species, do this again for other bugs, but yet we don't have the drive for whatever reason, absolutely boggles my mind. Because it sure as shit ain't a matter of not having the money. There are there are individuals who, on their own, could fund that and make that happen and make the world a better place. And to, again, use another expression that we've used before, and yet. ... And yet. You want to be a badass Batman? You want to be a badass Iron Man? Yeah, fund who? And make some of these things go away. Just personally, fund them. Just give them all the money. Give them all the money they need. What, couple $100 million, tops. Tops. Gone. In a human lifetime, we could get rid of stuff. Shit, smallpox. Whoa, okay, smallpox, as I remember right, it took, I think it was just under 10 years from when WHO started to when it was classified as gone.
Longer than that, but yeah.
Yeah, it was effectively 10 years.
And they still had vaccinations until 1982 in Canada, but they were not mandatory after 72. I always thought that I didn't get my smallpox vaccination because my mother reacted to hers, because her siblings didn't get theirs, from what I remember. I don't remember seeing the scar on my aunts or uncles. And I did some research quickly on the Canadian CDC, and yeah, it was no longer mandatory after 72. I was born in 72, no longer mandatory, but if you were traveling, it was still mandatory.
And reasonably so.
And polio is not gone.
No.
No, it'll come back.
Polio, measles, rubella, whooping cough, chicken pox, for Christ's sake. I had chicken pox twice as a kid. There wasn't a vaccine at that point. My kid got a vaccine because when we went to the doctors, they asked, would you like them to have this? And I said, there's a vaccine for that now? Oh yeah, didn't you know? No, I didn't. Yeah, pump them up. Do I have a problem with that? Nope. No. They're going to be safe for the rest of their lifetime? Cool. Good. Keep it that way. Make it go away. Shit, we killed off strains of the flu virus by just putting pieces of fabric over our faces. We eradicated some strains of the flu by doing nothing more than covering up our faces. Think about that. There's so many things that we could end up doing, but for whatever reason, just hasn't happened yet. And I cannot tell you how annoying that is.
Oh no, you can't wear masks in public because that's a security risk because we can't see your face. Da, 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 da. Excuse me, the Japanese, Koreans, Chinese, bunch of other Asian countries, they wear masks and their flu epidemic is a fraction of what ours is. Their COVID epidemic was a fraction of what ours was. They still had it.
Because societally, they know if they take care of themselves as best they can, they prevent everybody else around them from getting sick. And if everybody around them recognizes somebody's got a thing on their face, step a little bit further away if you can and give them their room. Cool. Done. It's simple. It really is just that simple. I mean, I had to have it explained to me when my wife and I were in Japan. I saw it. Yeah, it was kind of a crusty one that was on their face, but okay, that's on you. But you're keeping sneezes and coughs from everybody else. Cool.
I got sent a mask a couple years before COVID happened because of the forest fires in BC. I was having problems breathing. The mask didn't really help that much, but I was not that sick that year, that winter. I just kept wearing it.
Yeah. And when there were wildfires over in Ontario and the wind was blowing it our way, oh yeah, we put masks on. I put a mask on. The end of the day, I could see the dark streaks on the inside of the mask where the stuff was trying to pull in through around the edges.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, there's plenty enough reason for having them. And reminding you again, that was me working outdoors. What a kilometer and a half? Wait, 3 kilometers away from the Great Lake, over here, Lake Erie. It's worth it. The problem is here in the United States, everybody's just all steroided up and got to believe in their own abilities, and they're superhuman the whole time. You're not. You're not. Just stop it.
I got asked why I was wearing a mask today. I said, I'm suffering from pneumonia. I'm not contagious because I've got enough antibiotics in me for long enough. I'm not going to pass it on to anybody, but I don't want to catch anything else. And the lady that was asking me why I was wearing the mask said, that makes sense. Because if I were to catch a flu or a cold with what I've got right now, yeah.
See, you were a hell of a lot nicer than I would have been, because I would have told him, I've got Nunya.
Oh, we were talking about disability. She had a really, really, really nice wheelchair that I just fell in love with. It was $800 and individual little motors and stuff. And I really wish I'd gotten more information about what it was. It was just so cute.
Nice. Yeah, and just to finish up that thought, Nunya is short for Nunya business. Why am I wearing a mask? Because. But I'm also, as I've said before, I'm also one of those people that, well, I don't have a problem with telling people to piss off. I'm too old for that to be a problem anymore.
Oh.
So,
Ottawa police say one man has been arrested after an hours-long lockdown on Parliament Hill. Lovely. Canada's having fun.
great.
I'm going to have to put that in the show notes later when I can find it.
No worries. I want to get down to just about the last little bit, because I'm starting to feel a little bit, and I don't want to push too far. So, like I said, I've been very attentive right now. There are things that we can do to help ourselves, and we've been kind of talking about that right now, which has actually just naturally evolved into where I wanted to get to as like the end point. How to help ourselves. And the one that we mentioned, before we even got on the air, because I want to mention about that one, was, of course, getting masks. Getting and using masks again. You don't necessarily need to be using them out of doors. There are times when you might want to. Like I said, when I had to deal with being outdoors and the soot, the particulate was coming from Ontario because of the wildfires, yeah, absolutely. When I forget what atmospheric particulate index or whatever the hell the setting is nowadays, when it starts to get up into like the 100 and up rating, might not be such a bad idea to have a mask. If you are dealing with allergies from plant bukkake, you might want to have a mask. And as much as there is this whole thing about, like I said, the whole American rah-rah, testosterone, got to be able to do everything and handle everything and pull your tonsils up by its own bootstraps or whatever the hell it is. Who cares? If they're able to get through their day and they remain healthy, you know what? All good for them. But that's not you. You are you. And Your choice as to how to tend to your own body's matrix is your business, not someone else's, no matter what the executive branch in my country currently wants to stay. So right now, besides masks, I mean, we heard during the COVID thing, mask up, wash your hands, use hand sanitizer, don't cough on people, cough in the crook of your elbow if you have to, don't be drooling snot everywhere, these kinds of things. Is there anything else that would otherwise seem like it should be common knowledge that maybe just kind of blow over and don't even think about, you guys?
Honestly, wearing glasses. Not necessarily prescription glasses, not necessarily sunglasses, but a pair of glasses. They don't have to have any prescription on them at all to protect your eyes from particulate.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because if somebody coughs at you, you've got the glasses on, there's a chance that the glasses will stop what's aimed at you. Or somebody sneezes.
Well, damn.
Yeah, when I was working as a hygienist, I mean, we always wore eye protection because of any spray or airborne things.
You don't have to wear safety goggles, but just like the glasses that you're wearing right now. Just something to protect the bit.
The ones that I wore were just plastic with blue rims on them, that looked fashionable, but they were not very expensive, and that's what I wore for eye protection.
I've got a set of blue light blockers I can wear. I was wearing actually a set of reading glasses because I was crocheting and reading a pattern that was really, really small writing. I need that little bit of bifocalness now. But yeah, a pair of glasses just to protect your eyes.
And lots and lots and lots of soap. Because especially with things like norovirus going around, hand sanitizer does not work against norovirus. Alcohol does nothing to neutralize it, but soap and water does.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of surprising to me. I thought alcohol was like the great equalizer.
But not for norovirus.
Apparently not. Wow, shit.
Yeah.
Learn something new.
Still keep your alcohol wipes, still keep your stuff.
Yeah.
When we were at the hospital, they gave us this pile of hand sanitizer packages. We just took them home with us. There are all these wipes because as soon as the patient touches it, you can't give it to another patient. So we just took it home. And, they're being thrown in the car and whatnot because who knows what's going to happen. Somebody sneezes in my face, whether or not I've got glasses on, I can get back to the car, I can wipe my face down. If I can't get a hold of the soap in the bathrooms. You can't trust public bathrooms to have soap anymore. I've been to so many bathrooms where the soap was either non-existent or it was just the hand sanitizer more than anything else.
Yeah, but with norovirus, the best thing to do is to wash your hands.
Oh, I've been giving people
sanitizer, then do that, but the hand sanitizer does not kill norovirus.
I was giving people hell for not having proper bathrooms.
Yeah, and I'll drop you a link if you want to.
For?
Norovirus.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Individual soap packs, you can probably find them in the travel section, as well as the soap section, and this little itty-bitty store called Daiso. It's a Japanese dollar store. Absolutely adore it. You can find individual soap packs. You can find pretty much a lot of stuff that you can't find in normal dollar stores. Instead of $1, it's $2, and it's just a little bit more expensive, but it's also Japanese, and their quality is higher.
Yeah, I'm thinking of something that would be like the equivalent of like a personal ketchup packet kind of thing. Where it's just a rip it open, squeeze it out, and you got your stuff.
You could probably make that again. Daiso has those travel containers in all sorts of sizes. I carry this little itty bitty bottle of salt that I got from Daiso. The bottle I got from Daiso. It's just this little itty bitty bottle. I have a salt that I like, so I carry it with me.
That's fair. And Stephanie pointed out, your tear ducts are channels for stuff to get into you. And, it's one of those things where you don't think about it. And then somebody points it out and it's just like, wow, shit, yeah, you're right. Oh, I kind of didn't even think about that.
I've been watching Grey's Anatomy. Finally got up to the April 2020 episodes. I'm like 3 or 4 in now. So the 2020 season. And everybody there is wearing the full face mask to protect the eyes from particulates. Have we forgotten? When I worked at Elections BC for that election, just before I came, I had to have a full face mask on. Not just the face, the cloth mask, but I had to have the full plastic face mask, and so did all the people that were working under me. Particulates.
And one last sideways on that one, by the way. When stuff was going on, and my kid and I visited Rochester Institute of Technology, RIT. The Rochester area is very famous, of course, for, amongst other things, Kodak. Eastman Kodak was, or still is, best my recollection, housed in Rochester, New York. They also have an incredibly high, demographic for deaf communities. And one of the things that they were giving out at the time for the students going to RIT were not just regular face masks, but they had ones where it was fabric on either side, starting on either side of the mouth, going around, around the chin, around to the cheeks. But the center section was clear plastic for the deaf community who would read lips.
That was shown on Grey's Anatomy. There's a deaf doctor, and all the other doctors wore those types of masks. One of my friends, she had a stroke and ended up in a nursing care. She was deaf, and COVID started up, and she died in that nursing home, scared and afraid, because nobody was wearing the half masks, the ones with the plastic. She was able to read lips, but because they weren't wearing a mask that would let her read their lips, that was from her family. That's what they told us, and that was not a way for her to go. That was not a way for her to be treated. It's just...
Yeah.
When you're deaf, when you're blind, communication becomes an issue.
Yeah, if you have to deal with someone who is a lip reader, remember, it's okay to take off your mask to communicate with them, not to talk at them, to communicate. Don't speak, just breathe and mouth the words as you would normally. Don't enunciate, just mouth the words. And then put your mask back on so that you can breathe normally, talk to whomever else that might be hearing so that you can explain what's going on. And then if you need to speak again, or type stuff, write stuff, there are ways around it. But please don't isolate people for not having tried. Learning sign language is tough. I get it. But try. If nothing else, learn one. This one. Thank you. If nothing else, just learn the one. Just thank you.
I know a couple of others. I know hi, and I know I love you.
And for those of you that are Italian, remember, this thank you is different from this, which will not be spoken. There are ways. Just it's about as good as a joke as it's going to get. Anything else either one of you still got left over? Because I think I'm going to be pretty close to giving it a call right about now.
I don't.
I'm
just
tired.
Very disgusted.
I'm tired. I've had a couple of coughing fits where I've had to mute the microphone. And I need to be nebulized and I need to be put to bed.
Fair. Then we'll go ahead. We'll call it here. For the last item that I've got for you folks, as we get out of here, we want you to be safe. We want you to be healthy. We want you to be able to come back. And we're not trying to do this particular show because we're trying to scare anybody. Far from it. We want folks to understand that there are ways. There are ways of keeping you safe, keeping your loved ones safe. And as somebody else once put it, the life you save may be your own. More importantly, the life you save, you might never know who it was. Just be mindful. And be careful out there. So with that, we'll go ahead. We'll call it just a little bit early, but all the better. So thank you, everybody, for being with us. We hope that you found something worthwhile in all of our perspectives. And you got something to think about for the week ahead. Minimally, the week ahead. Thank you very much. Stephanie, thank you very kindly. You have yourself a good morning. Take care of yourself. As always, truly appreciate you being able to be here. Io, thank you again. Really hoping that some of these the shows that you're able to be on have been helping mentally, emotionally for you, and you take care of yourself, hon. Thank you so much.
The worst thing is I don't know if I can DJ again.
Maybe not for a while, but as I once wrote, forever is a long time. Let's see what happens. But good luck.
Thanks.
And
I'll be there Monday.
And Brigid, thank you. Who has your ire for tonight?
I'm going to have to say, I don't even know where to start, but this whole those nonsense with a chainsaw is just fucking ridiculous.
That's fair.
And if the goal is to make everyone destitute and broke and sick and have them die, yeah, you're doing a good job of making that happen. That is the intent.
Well, here's the thing, and I'm going to make this real quick. Back in the day, some people might remember Commodore Business Machines, CBM, the guys that made the PET, the iconic Commodore 64, and the Amiga computers. At the end of CBM's lifetime, there were a couple of guys who had a known history of getting into the higher part of the board, running the company very close to the brink of death so that they could buy a whole bunch of stock when it was, at almost nothing, and then leaving the company and letting somebody else pick it back up again, thereby getting themselves a whole bunch of new money because the stock would rebound and they'd have more money. I refuse to believe that they're not going to try to do exactly that with killing this economy, so...
Oh, yeah, they're going to try to do it, but I'm like, what the hell with tariffing a bunch of penguins? What have the penguins ever done to you?
Oh, it's because it's part of Australia. It's a protectorate of Australia, and they put tariffs on Australia.
And
I'm at the little islands with nothing but penguins. Why? What do? Tariff them some fish?
And penguins have been known to have same-sex couplings, so there
That's
you
true.
go.
It could be revenge.
That's my story. I'm sticking with it.
But
It,
penguins need to
it's.
stand in solidarity against this bullshit.
I'm just watching the news reports, and every time I just shake my head and know that if it was the opposite, it would be plastered all over every single news media.
Fair. So, you'll have yourselves a safe week. We'll see you, well, as soon as we can. If you'd like to be in touch with us, of course, best way on over to the Discord. Take a swing through over there. The link is in the show notes. If you need a voice, if you need somebody to try to help you out with something, just send a big bat signal at everyone in the main chat, and we'll see what we can do for you. We can't promise to be there all the time, but we'll help you out eventually as soon as we can. Otherwise, in the meantime, just thank you. Thank you for not giving up on us. So, until the next time we're together, as always, I wish you all the peace I no longer have. I wish you the strength that I've learned. I wish you well. My lady, I cannot tell you how tough it is. Almost 20 years later. But I am still in love. Matane Fujin. I love you. I miss you. Dream of me. Till the next time we're together, everyone. As always, good night.